All right, Kevin back with you for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I'm here with Landon Wimmer. Landon, welcome. So awesome to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. Super excited. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I am really stoked about this too. And I want to start off by just giving a quick shout out to the folks at the Quoted platform because those guys are doing awesome work over there. And I found out about them not that long ago, just a couple months ago,
Hmm.
through another friend of mine who hosts podcasts too. And so my assistant and I were taking a look at it, and she goes, "Well, why don't I just let me just put together a quick listing for you, Kevin? We'll just try it out." And
Okay.
and within 2 days, I had 41 responses to
Oh,
that
wow.
listing. And one of them was you, Landon. Well, it wasn't you personally.
Yeah.
Your PR gal, Andrea.
Hmm.
She sent me a message, and I'll tell you what, she is so doggone good at talking you up, Landon. I mean, she talked you up, and I'm like, dang, I want to
Oh
get to
boy.
know this Landon guy.
And then you got to meet me and
And then I got to
you
meet you.
know,
That's right.
yeah. No, that's great. That's great to hear. Super, yeah, super grateful for her and for her efforts to connect us together.
Well, and here's the thing, Lenny. So yeah, you and I, we've already got to talk before today and stuff, and we got to
Mhm.
have a conversation, get to know each other a little bit. In fact, through that, I ended up introducing you to my buddy Nate and
Mhm.
stuff, and because I'm like, man, you two guys got to meet because Landon, you are just this down to earth guy. Who you're a family guy like me. You got a lot of kids. In fact, you got a brand new kid, brand new child,
We
and uh,
do.
so we're both dads to lots of kids,
That's right.
and you know what? We wouldn't trade it for nothing. And you are also an entrepreneur who is just doing some really amazing things, who is resourceful, who you what I really gathered from our last conversation and what I really appreciated is how much you just truly care about your clients and stuff and how you just want to give them the best service that you possibly can. And man, I'll tell you that speaks volumes. And so I know you were sharing before we hit the record button. Yeah, Kev, I don't do a lot of this. And I'm like, it's totally cool, man. And so,
No, it's definitely not my personality. I prefer to not be in the spotlight, but that would be the message I'd want everybody to hear the most is how much we do genuinely care
yeah,
about our customers, about doing the right thing, our integrity, our character.
yeah.
That matters to me more than anything else. And we're learning, we're growing. Like it's been quite the journey, but super grateful for where we're at today and what we've accomplished.
Yeah. And yeah, and you guys, man, I mean, I was just blown away by what you shared with me when we spoke before. And so I'm gonna give our listeners the opportunity to find out a little bit about you. And so what we'll do is we'll just start. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Lennon, so that you can talk about what you guys do, what you do, who you serve, what inspires you most about the work that you get to do and the impact you get to make through your company, and also share some of the backstory. And I know that kind of encompasses a lot. I realize that, but I just want to give you a little bit of leeway to just share from your heart and just kind of go with what feels right to you. And so I'll just let you take it away, and then I'll just kind of be here to guide you along.
Oh, that sounds great. Well, again, appreciate the opportunity and the time to connect. So I started in the home service industry. God, it's been 2006, so almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I was approached by a buddy who had sold recently went selling door to door pest control.
Okay.
And at the time, I didn't know anything about it, didn't know, about the opportunity. I was going to college. I had recently returned home from Russia from serving a mission for our church for 2 years and was kind of just not sure what I wanted to do. Had really little direction as far as a career path for me went. So, but that opportunity intrigued me. It sounded like an opportunity to go out, work really hard for a summer and potentially make enough money to be able to come back and not have to take on any student debt, or school loans or things like that, and just focus on school during the school year. And so I took a chance, went for that opportunity, and have really been in sales, my entire career since then. I went out to Des Moines, Iowa. It was my first year out selling, and it was actually cable television or a dish network. It was selling satellite television. And I was not great at it. I struggled. It took me quite a while to figure it out, learn how to do it. My personality type just didn't seem to fit the mold of a normal or stereotypical sales person. And so I had to kind of learn how to adapt and how to connect with people because I'd rather not put people in an uncomfortable position. I don't love, conflict. I don't love putting people in an uncomfortable position. So sales for me was difficult. And I think after about a month, my wife and I were newly married. We'd kind of just decided, like, is this really going to work? Is this right? Like, can we be successful doing this? And it just kind of, for me, was one of those things. I'm not a quitter. I didn't want to give up. I felt like I committed to this. I needed to figure it out and stick it out, and ended up really kind of figuring out what worked for me and how I was able to be successful. And it I think became clear to me that, like, if my approach with customers could become more one of caring, one of like I'm here to help you. I want to improve your situation, whatever way I can do that. I was able to click and connect with customers on a different level.
Yeah.
And so that kind of helped me figure out what worked for me, individually. And that summer ended up being a pretty big success. And so what I learned from that was just really how important it is for me to establish relationships and to build trust and to figure out what really I can do to benefit, the customer.
Mhm.
And that kind of led me down the path of sales for really ever since then. So almost 20 years. But it wasn't until I got into an opportunity to sell solar that I really believed in and was passionate about the product that I was able to offer customers.
Okay.
I felt like, I started selling satellite, and then I moved to home security or home automation. And then I was offered an opportunity to come into the solar industry, and I didn't really know anything about it, but I was offered an opportunity to move to California, move my family to California. And when I moved out there, I really didn't know a lot about solar in general. And I didn't really know a lot about California utility companies, utility costs. Like, again, I was pretty young in life and experience in running a household and understanding like all the costs and expenses associated with running a household. But when we moved out to Fresno, our first summer bill was almost $800 from our
Wow.
utility company. And
Wow.
it was like, whoa, what just happened? It was almost 8 times more than what our typical summer bills were from our previous location. And so that was the first time I realized what kind of impact I could have on homeowners in helping them and educating them in the process of going solar.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I'd finally found a product that I could really stand behind, get passionate about, and not just have a positive impact on the customer's savings or monthly budget or expenses, but also on the environment, and the impact that it has on our environment. So anyway, that was really exciting for me, and that was in 2012. So I've been in solar in this industry now for 13 years,
Okay.
which is pretty crazy. So
Wow.
that's kind of my backstory, I guess.
Yeah. And now you're kind of expanding a little bit too and stuff.
Yeah,
Because I remember when we spoke before, the way you were doing things when you started is not the way you're doing things now. And in fact, when you started, you were out there selling, but then you found out that the company that was doing the delivering was not living up to like what you were selling. And you're like, okay. And so tell that story too,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
that's
no, absolutely.
important.
That was for sure. I think for me as a sales rep, I felt like I was kind of the face of the company. I felt like what I was really trying to do to help and benefit, these customers, once I left their home, I had no control over their experience, with the actual install, the process of them going solar, getting connected to the utility company with their solar system. So for me, it felt like, God, I learned really well how to establish these relationships. And solar, it's a process, it's a journey. It's not just like I can, set this customer up today and they're installed tomorrow. It could take a month to 2 months, 3 months before their system's actually live and turned on and installed. And so as a sales rep, I felt responsible for that experience, but I didn't have any way to control or impact or affect it. And so I felt like, and the companies that I was working for at the time were pretty large national solar companies, and I felt like there just wasn't really quite the customer focus that there needed to be in such a large purchase. I mean, outside of their home, it's like one of the biggest purchases a homeowner can make
Right.
is solar on their home. And so that was when I kind of decided to really start my own company, and I felt like I could do it better on a more local and regional level than what these national firms were able to offer. And so that was back in 2019. I started my own company, brought the operations in-house, started it really out of my garage. The first few homes we installed, the material, all the equipment was shipped to my house and was in my garage. And I remember loading up those solar panels and all the equipment into our little box truck that I just bought and drove it down the street to install it on a neighbor's home. So it was quite the journey, but I felt like, again, the experience for me, because of the relationships that I was able to establish with our homeowners, the experience needed to be something that I could impact or control. And sometimes that's for better or worse. We're not perfect. We make mistakes, but those are the opportunities that we have to learn from our mistakes, to own our mistakes, and to make it right for the customer. But for better or worse, we're now the ones, 100% responsible and in control of how that experience goes for the customer.
Yeah.
And when I started Empower, obviously I started as only company, but what I've learned over the years is how other home services are impacted by a customer choosing to go solar, meaning like that system is going to be on their roof for 25, 30 years. We might want to really do an assessment on their roof to make sure it's in good shape. The condition of the roof can support the solar. We don't want customers to have to take the panels off in 5 years, a couple of years, just to re-roof, the system. If it needs to be done beforehand, let's look at that now, assess if the roof would be a good thing to update. The biggest energy suck of a home is an AC unit, and a lot of times what I've seen is solar can kind of be treated as a band-aid, to the problem. The actual problem is that the AC unit is way outdated, it's old, it's inefficient, it's not operating, effectively, which is driving the cost of the utility, for that home up. And so if we can take a look at the AC unit, if it needs to be updated, if there is, an opportunity to provide a better, system, for the homeowner on their AC unit, then that might impact, how many solar panels the customer needs, or, what the overall efficiency of the system it needs to do. And so now we've shifted, from just being a solar only focus for a customer to really approaching it from a whole home approach that we think just adds way more value to a customer, because it's really hard to do it when you're piecing it out, with with other companies.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it was just us that's doing the solar, but we recommend, hey, you really should look at your roof. Well, now that customer's got to go look for other
Yeah.
roofing contractors. Who do you trust? Who do you know? The same thing with AC companies. If we're recommending, hey, your AC unit's 15 years old, you really not much life left in this. We think it could impact, the efficiency of your solar. Maybe you need less panels. Do they go find their own AC company? I feel like now that we're able to approach it from a more whole home approach, it just provides an overall better customer experience, and we
Yeah.
become that trusted partner for any of those home service needs.
Yeah. 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 And once again, it all comes back to just, you know what, you just want to give your clients the best experience and make it as easy as possible for them, and don't send them
100%.
out into the market trying to search now for a roofer or an HVAC company and run the
Yeah.
risk of them just finding a company that's not going to treat them the same way you guys would.
100%.
Yeah.
And what we've seen over the years is, I mean, I can honestly say there's probably been, I think California did a report on this number last year where there were over 100 solar companies that went out of business.
Wow.
And it's alarming. And so what happens is those customers that get installed from a company that maybe is just kind of in it for a quick buck, or they're short-sighted, they're cutting corners, they're doing things that really aren't, beneficial for the customer long term. Once they're gone, those customers are orphaned customers. They don't have anyone servicing or monitoring or making sure their system's okay. Who do they call if there's issues or if there's problems? And so again, we feel like we've positioned ourselves really well to be that long-term partner. We're not just here, to make a quick buck and to really grow, as fast as we can and maybe exit the market. That's not what we're doing. The decisions we're making are really to try to be that long-term partner for customers. The other thing I'd say to that is we've also seen a lot of like HVAC companies see the opportunity that solar is. For the time that solar's, really grown, it's become, a pretty big industry just in a quick amount of time, where HVAC's been around for 80 years,
Sure.
100,
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But what we've seen is these HVAC companies have come in and want to participate in the solar boom, is what they call it. But it's a totally different product, different install, different operations. And I think what we've been able to prove is it's much easier to go from being a really quality operational excellent solar company and offer HVAC or roofing than it is to go the other way around. I think we've seen a lot of HVAC companies try to come into the solar space and they really don't understand it very well, and it seems like it's kind of delivering customers with not a very great experience. And so we feel going from our solar base, as a business to these other services, we're able to have a much better provide a much better experience for the customers.
Okay. Very good. Well, okay. So got now that we've got some context set
Hmm.
and people kind of have a little bit of understanding of who you are and what you're all about and what you do and all that, I want to switch gears just a little bit. And I'm going to reiterate the question around relationships for the benefit of our listeners. So, Landon, have you ever been introduced to a person or persons who completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person or persons? And I'm just really excited to hear your
Yeah.
story and your experience around this topic of relationships.
Sure. Oh, that's absolutely. I love that question. Like, there's no doubt in my mind, everybody, has somebody like that in their life, and I absolutely do as well. I I I mean, I've had multiple, to be completely honest. I would say the one that's maybe had the largest impact that I wanted to share with you was somebody that came into my life when I was 15 years old.
Okay.
They were kind of friends of our family. our families were acquaintances. We were friends to their family. But he was older than me, belonged to the same church. We went to the same church all growing up. And I knew of him, I knew of his family, but he had returned home from Costa Rica for after serving a 2 year mission for our church, and he was going to college at the time, and somehow our paths crossed again at that point, and he kind of took me under his wing, and I don't know why, but at the time, I don't think he knew I was transitioning from one junior high school going to a high school, but all of my friends from my junior high school were going to a totally different high school. So
Oh,
I felt like I was kind of starting over, with
yeah.
a whole new group of friends, a whole new high school, and um, he kind of came into my life, and he asked if I wanted to help him with his window washing business. And again, I'm 15 years old. He's 21. He's got way more responsibility than I do, way more expenses to his life. He's going to college at this point. He's got a car. I don't even have a car. Like, I mean, it's just crazy to me that he asked me if I was interested in helping him with this. And of course, I took him up on the opportunity. I was like, yes, I'd absolutely be interested in that. And so for the summer after I turned 15, I washed windows with him. He taught me how to do it. He taught me the technique. He helped me invest in my own materials to be able to help him and be um, just a positive like impact on his business. But when it came time to pay me for the first job that I did for him, he split it with me 50-50. I
Wow.
remember asking like what in the world? Like there's no way. Why would like I'm not expecting this. And anyway, he just said he's like, "Hey, the way I look at it, I'd gotten the job done in half the time that I would have if you weren't here, and might as well just go 50-50 on this." And so moving forward for the next 2 summers, I washed windows with him, and it was just an opportunity. It taught me so much about the value of time. I had when I turned 16, I had opportunities to go get other jobs, not in the summer, and I think the minimum wage at the time was $5.15. And the first job I got was working nights at a golf course, turning on the sprinklers around the greens and around the tee boxes, and just driving around. And my shift was from 8 o'clock at night to about 2 in the morning, and I was 16 years old, and my paycheck was $5.15 an hour. And I remember comparing that after a 2 week period with what I was making doing washing windows with him. And I think I was averaging around 20 or $25 an hour washing windows.
Big difference.
It was a big difference. And so from there, I just really learned to value my time differently. And after those first 2 summers doing it with him, he ended up getting married and kind of got into a different career path. But it set me off on my own path of washing windows up until I was 19 years old. And I learned at that time, I learned how to go find business. I'd go knock doors. I'd offer people quotes, free estimates for washing windows. And I really was able to build kind of this clientele base washing windows, and was able to really make pretty good money doing it. And so that kind of gave me more of this entrepreneurial like outlook and
Yeah.
perspective, and
Yeah.
and really helped me understand what my time value was in the marketplace. And I also learned it's like I could go find work whenever I wanted to. If I wanted a break, or if I wanted a weekend off, I just wouldn't schedule jobs for those days. And I wasn't kind of slave to, clocking in and out, So I would say that relationship had such, and it wasn't just the working aspect of it. It was, I mean, he really taught me how to do a lot of other things. Taught me how to water ski, taught me how to just really value people and relationships, and I watched him closely, and what made him so successful in his window washing business was how he treated his customers. And so I learned a lot from him. It was a pretty impactful relationship that to this day I don't believe I'd be where I am without it.
So are you guys still in contact with each other at all these days?
We are occasionally, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, he still lives in the similar area where I grew up. I'm the one that's kind of alienated our
Moved
relationship
out of
from
town and
moving to California. But we do still stay in contact. It's fun. I've shared, that with him before. I don't think he realized really the impact he had on me though,
yeah.
until way later in life. So definitely grateful for him and the relationship that we were able to establish together.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I want to dig deeper into this, Landon. And so I'm sure you'll be able to come up with a lot of examples that you could share to the question I'm going to ask you, but I just want to challenge you to come up with one.
Okay.
And so, what is an example of a situation where you personally, you got to make this really big impact, and maybe even the moment, maybe it kind of surprised you a little bit. You're just like, wow, look at what just happened there. And yet you also know that would have never happened if not for your relationship with this gentleman that you've just been talking about. What's an example of something like that, Landon?
Yeah, I mean that's another really good question. For me, my role in most of the uh, positions that I've had in sales have has typically been a manager type role where
Okay.
I'm responsible for recruiting, for hiring, for training, for managing other sales reps. And I'll never forget my favorite relationships that I was able to be a part of was from I think at the time he was maybe 19 years old. I was probably 26, 27. But he was working at Walgreens as kind of a store, like a cashier clerk.
Okay.
And um, I think, again, I can't remember what his minimum wage was. I think it was around $10 an hour. I was able to recruit him to come work for me, selling solar, and it was one of those opportunities where I could just see kind of the drive and the hunger that this young kid had, and kind of the quiet confidence as well that is required, to be successful in sales. He was an athlete. He played, competitive soccer. Those are, skill sets and traits that I'm looking for as I'm recruiting, just because it teaches, I think, so much discipline, hard work, motivation, competitiveness. Like there's a lot there. So he had a lot going for him. But again, he was just at Walgreens store, which is great. I mean, and not saying anything negative about that opportunity for him, but he came in and within the first 12 months, he made in solar, he made over 100 grand. And
Wow.
it just was one of those experiences where I felt like I was able to mentor and teach and train and kind of show him, how to be successful in this job. But it really came down to him applying that,
Yeah.
and his work ethic and really doing everything that he could, to impact the results. But I do feel like a lot of pride in the impact that I was able to make on his life and how it changed his outlook of his value on time and to the marketplace. And
Yeah.
I don't we still work relatively close today as well. And I don't think he'd ever go back to, a career path that kind of defines what his self-worth is or what his value is to the marketplace. He's gone on to kind of run his own business, and it's been cool to see that. So that would be probably the first one that comes to mind.
That is a pretty phenomenal example, Landon.
Yeah.
And you're right. That's the challenge, with becoming an entrepreneur is, when we start figuring stuff out and we do discover especially when we start to get in flow and then things start happening, the momentum starts picking up, we realize that, the value of our time, that I mean, time is one of our assets for sure. and
Definitely.
and the value of our time increases the more valuable we become to other people. and
Definitely.
you know, we can, the value of our time is worth far more as an entrepreneur than it ever is working for somebody else, you know.
Totally agree
And
with you, Kevin.
you know, he's not going to go back to Walgreens and have Walgreens pay him 100,000 a year. You know, it's just
Right.
not going to happen. You know,
Right.
and
Yep. Exactly.
because the value proposition just isn't there at that position. But
Right.
bring his skill sets and his compassion and his empathy and just all of that over and bring it into your environment.
Mhm.
Now there's a real value alignment there.
100%.
You know,
Yes. Yes,
and
absolutely. It's really
and
well said.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I really want to thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. You know, for, you know, since we started this podcast, the goal has always been really simple. For you, the guest, I want to just give you the opportunity to honor somebody who's had such a profound impact on your life and on your business. And for our listeners who are also entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs, I just want to use these stories to just inspire them to
Yeah.
place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives.
Well,
And
I love that, Kevin. That's an incredible like mission that you're
yeah,
a part of. Like that's a pretty awesome just message that you're able to deliver and be a part of.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, you know, it was in conjunction with you that we delivered on that today. And I'll tell you, we delivered in spades. And so I want to just thank you for your role in that, because that, you know, this wouldn't be possible without the guests like you that we get to have on this podcast and stuff. And so for anybody that is listening to this going, man, Kev, I really love Landon. I love Landon. I love how he shows up. Maybe, you know, I mean, how can they connect with you if they wanted to connect, find out more about what you guys are doing, or maybe just connect with you personally? What's the best way to do it? Any websites, resources we can
Yeah,
share?
yeah. Website is empoweryourhome.com.
Okay.
That's our company website. I'm on LinkedIn
Okay.
personally under just Landon Wimmer.
Okay.
But again, I'm not really in a lot of social media. I'm not really on Facebook or Instagram. I've really kind of shied away just from the spotlight, but I'd love to connect with anybody. I'd love to be any sort of resource or support. You know, if there's anyone out there that kind of in their own journey or having their own experience, I'd love to be a part of that in any way. I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, Landon, once again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. And I'm excited to get this out there and share it with a lot of other folks. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate the conversation.
You bet.